Crew. We got a nice Memorial Day show for you. We thought we would get into kind of players that are on the fringe of Hall of Fame. Are they going to get in the Hall of Fame? Are they not? Are they first ballot Hall of Famers? Are they, several years down the road? And so we really wanted to do current players, but we got a few that recently retired in the last year or two. And then, a couple guys that might not be Hall of Famers yet, but they're well into their careers and they could potentially solidify that spot. I know, Ford, you were going to talk a little bit about kind of get into how easy it might be to get in the Hall of Fame for some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the Basketball Hall of Fame is a bit of a, I hate to call it a joke per se, but sometimes there's guys get in, it's just kind of, it seems like a lot of guys end up getting in, and there's no real criteria that's clear. But obviously, it's not just the NBA Hall of Fame; it's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Sure.
And so some of these guys, like Grant Hill, who I know you love, is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's probably not based on actions, but like he's that tier of player all in all. But even last year, Vlade Divac gets in. I love Vlade Divac. I remember watching him in Charlotte when I was growing up. He got traded for Kobe, and that was kind of one of the first years I remember really paying attention to basketball.
Sure.
Anyways, but he was like the fourth option on a championship team for the Lakers, and then he was like fourth or fifth option for the Kings, and all around like a good player and like put together a long career. But it's this, if you look at the NFL and how difficult it is to get in the Hall of Fame, comparatively, it's pretty wild. So some of these guys, like there's nothing like, you don't even have to win a championship to be here. I mean, last year like Sidney Moncrief finally got in, good player, but like.
Yeah, no one's disputing his ability on the floor for sure. But yeah, absolutely.
But is he like Hall of Famer? And then I see, I know like Yao got in a couple years ago. I don't think Yao's like actual basketball career.
I don't think he played 82 games ever.
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with like contributions and opening up the Chinese market. But then his buddy Daryl kind of shut back down a little bit. But it's just it's not necessarily specific to basketball.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, and it's interesting because you're absolutely right. Like a lot of those guys, man, going back to Yao, I don't think he really deserved that spot. But I think there's a few other guys that have been waiting a few years that I would have put ahead of him. But well, let's get into it, man. So I think one of the guys that made us kind of think about doing this as a show was Blake Griffin. Once really, I mean, I think a superstar, definitely a star.
Definitely a superstar for
a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you know what? And Blake Griffin, it's kind of unfortunate because he just got caught the wrong time coming into the league. The league changed like his second, third year in, and he had to adapt. And he's actually done a pretty good job adapting.
But we talked about him last week in our point forward.
Yeah. So
he made real strides.
So let me ask you, I mean, with everything, do you think he is at this point?
I think he's one of those guys who gets in like 10 years after he should have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's not first ballot.
Yeah, he's definitely not first ballot. And then you're like, oh, Blake Griffin made it. And it's just on that line where you're not like, wow, that's not right. But then you're also not like, heck yeah, too late. Yeah, I think put
sure.
in there and you'll be like, good for him. He put in the work.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, he's definitely Hall of Famer. It's just definitely not first ballot. Well, speaking of real random note, I mean, I know he was injured this year. He got embarrassed in Mexico City after like Luka introduced, but what introduced the league in Spanish, and then he was like did his Spanish, but he's not even average in the 18 games he played this year before he got injured. He only averaged 4.7 rebounds a game. I don't know if he must have been playing injured beforehand. Like
he's a step slower than everybody now. He still carries a lot of weight for kind of how the game's like changing and stuff.
Sure.
He's probably giving it all on the offensive end, trying to set guys up, and he's probably the focal. I mean, he is the focal point of that offense. And I don't know, maybe he just wasn't around the rim or.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's just kind of weird because he's always been good for like 7 boards a game. So it's just kind of.
I mean, his rookie season, he averaged 12 games. Or not his rookie, but his first season.
That's right.
I think he fell off the cliff. I think he's probably got 2 to 3 years in the league left with that.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. I think he was too athletic. He came in injured with a broken kneecap. I don't see how long he can go. I mean, he's already 31 years old. maybe 32. I don't know, 31. No, I think he's 31. So
Yeah,
um,
31.
he's my age. So oh, good. Yeah, no, I agree. 2 to 3 years left, and I do think he's a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Just not first ballot.
Yeah.
Another guy that played alongside him for several years, and they were an exciting couple guys to watch. DeAndre Jordan.
What do you go? What do you think?
Man, I don't think he is. Again, he might be like when I'm like 80 years old, he might slip in somehow. I think he's put on a heck of a defensive prowess career. He's a great defender, great rim protector, incredibly athletic. But I think when it's all said and done, I don't see how you slide him in personally.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm with you here. I mean, he really had some great seasons, but kind of like a double-double, averaging a double-double. He's like a 10 and 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I think even he's got the. I mean, he's only been on 2 all-defensive teams.
Yeah,
Which
is
seems
kind of
like
crazy to me.
it seems wrong, but
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite there. And then, it's not like he's done anything in his twilight. It's really like you're talking about like 5 good years.
Yeah. Remember he was like in the league for like 7 years before he hit his first field goal outside the lane?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at his first 5 years anyways, like it took him a long time to develop.
To get going.
Big man. But yeah, I'm pretty out on him, especially with what happened with the Mavs. I think that was actually a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Anyways, but what a wild day that was.
Yeah, that was crazy. Which, by the way, can we just a little side note? Chris Broussard fell off the map after when Mark Cuban said he would get him back, and everyone's like, whatever. Chris Broussard was out of ESPN. He was like, now he's on Fox Sports 1 with Rob, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about? He called Richard RG3, said he was I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, that was just there was a few like ripple effects from that day that happened to people outside of the Mavs organization.
Totally. That was a wild day. It was unprecedented, but
I was so mad when it happened, but afterwards I was so grateful.
Yeah, like their whole bit was they're going to change the offense where he was getting. I think they looked at it. He was getting like 2 post-ups a game in Los Angeles, and they were going to give him like 7 or 8 post-ups a game, and I can't imagine.
It's kind of weird too, because not to take this for a weird turn, but if they get him on that contract, how much does it affect the future of the team, right? Like you used up a ton of cap space, and that it would already burned off by now, anyways. But are they an actual better team? Do they get? I mean, right now, if you're a Mavs fan, you're like, anything that screwed up getting Luka, you don't want, right?
Yeah, like does it put us in some weird situation where maybe that was his last year of the contract, or maybe it was the year before, but where they flip him for someone else or something towards the end, and squeeze into the playoffs, and they don't get Luka or something, or they squeeze him, they're the 10th pick to the 5th. It's just there's ramifications there. Absolutely.
So let's go to another center, Tyson Chandler.
So, yeah, I think Tyson Chandler will be
interesting. So
his resume is not that different than DeAndre's, but
he's got a championship, and actually played a significant role in that championship. Right, he was the anchor of the defense.
Yeah.
I think as Mavs fans, we felt the lack of him the next season. He was just that energy guy. Kind of wild. Another random thing about Tyson Chandler. What happens? You remember that 2009 incident when he was with New Orleans, and they traded him to OKC for Joe Smith and Chris Wilcox, and OKC decided I can't remember what side, but they say he failed the physical.
Yeah.
And so it never happened. Can you imagine if they had Tyson Chandler with Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, with him anchoring that defense?
Yeah, I think he would have given a lot better leadership than Kendrick Perkins
or Serge Ibaka. Yeah.
Well, Ibaka was a good baller, but yeah.
No, he was, but like from a vocal standpoint.
Yeah, totally.
So, and weird thing, actually, we could even Serge Ibaka seemed like he was on that incline. And then he went to Orlando. Was it Orlando that they traded him to?
Yeah.
He
kind of bounced around a little bit.
He dropped off. I mean, he still gives you 15 and 8, but just wasn't.
Yeah, he showed up in Toronto last year.
Yeah, he did. He did, and he got a ring. So good
No,
props
in a
to
big
him.
way. Like, yeah, I mean, like he showed out. Like he didn't
Yeah,
like.
no, absolutely. No, and you know what? I've met the guy. He's like the nicest human being you could ever encounter. So I like him, but yeah, it was just
He's the guy I'd love to throw on the Mavs. Like we could like move,
absolutely.
move something like a Cleveland for him or something. I'd love that.
Yep.
Or Powell for him. I feel like he's
You're always trying to dump Dwight Powell.
yeah, I'm not a big Dwight Powell.
Well, so for me with Tyson Chandler, again, I think I put him ahead of DeAndre Jordan for sure, but I still think he's several years, like 10, 15 ballots past his, like when he's officially allowed to be entered. I think he might slip in.
Yeah, totally. No, he's not the first ballot. It's funny too when we get to the end of this list. I think we'll realize so many of these guys are centers, centers and power forwards that just aren't really part of where the league is headed and where today's game is. And I wonder if we kind of discount them, or maybe they missed 4 years of quality basketball.
The window.
Yeah. And some of these guys, but someone like Tyson Chandler, he's been on so many teams. Like he's just got so many people rooting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a journeyman.
Journeyman, and everyone like teammates love him too.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. He'll get in.
Jamal Crawford, man, Mr. Six man of the year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
I think no.
I don't either. I think it's tough to make an argument for him.
He's almost more of a legend than anything. Like he was on those Knicks teams when they were like just bad, and he was like dropping 15 to 20 a game, and I don't know, it's just there. He was kind of always just like a streaky. This is what J.R. Smith's career really should have looked like.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think he gets in. He's one of my favorite players to watch because he's got his handles are so filthy. In my opinion, one of the underrated greatest ball handlers of all time. Just brings so much finesse to the game. But no, I don't think he does enough to it's not like he was a 6-man anchor on a championship team or several championship teams. He was just and I don't want to say he was a good stats bad team guy, because he wasn't, because those Clippers teams were solid. And he was their energy guy off the bench. But yeah, I agree.
Do you think his career is different? Like, because he is such a good ball handler, if he kind of gets better at passing and setting guys up and like really running an offense, sometimes I feel like he's just like kind of an ISO guy.
Yeah.
Do you think if he had really worked on that, his career would look different?
Yeah, so I think if he was a true point, like he had the ability to be a 6'5" point guard, right? Like he had that, and I do question. You got guys like Steven Jackson that have come out and said, like, I didn't work out in the off season. Like, I didn't work on my game. And I almost wonder if Jamal Crawford was one of those guys that he's just doing all those pro-am games. He's scrimmaging, but he doesn't really get in the gym with the trainer or with himself and just like work on his game. I wonder if he would have done stuff like that. No, I agree. Athletic, smooth, silky smooth, like long, just, he had all the traits or assets to be such a great player. And he just, I still love watching him, but yeah, I don't.
Props to him for getting like 14 years or 15 years.
Heck yeah. And how many, 3 or 4 6-mans of the year?
Yeah, 3, and
he scored 50 with like 4 different teams.
He's what?
He scored like 50 points with 4 different teams.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't even know that, but he's averaged over 10 points for 12 years in the NBA. Well, it's pretty impressive in its entirety. I just don't think there was ever like a great shining moment.
No, agreed. Random fact though, my one game I got to see at the Garden, he was playing for the Knicks. I was in high school, and he hit the game winner buzzer beater to beat the Celtics.
Well, that's cool.
That was pretty dope. Well, good. So we both are no on him.
Yeah.
All right, another guy. This guy, man, I love him to death. He's one of my guys, Richard Jefferson. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I think he's entertaining. I think he was a great player. I loved when he played for the Mavs for 1 or 2 years, nothing huge, and then he went to the Cavs and got his ring, which I was happy for him.
Played for everybody 1 or 2 years.
So, do you remember that dunk he did with Dallas and it did not count? They called an offensive foul.
Yeah.
It was one of the most filthy poster dunks. Like
Yeah, and he's like 34.
he's like 34 when it happens. No, it's insane. So, for me, I'll start on this one. I think he was a huge asset to the Cavs. I think he was obviously his days with the Nets with Jason Kidd and Kenyon Martin.
That gets so overlooked.
Say what?
That gets so overlooked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was fantastic. It was phenomenal. But I don't. He's one of those guys. Again, I just don't think he slides through. And if he does, it's years down the road. Personally, in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I think some of that might be a disservice and forgotten those early years, those early forgotten years. But I don't think he quite has the resume. And when I say this, I think we also got to clarify, a lot of these guys might slip in 30, 40, 50 years down the road, but I think we're trying to think like 10 years after their career, do they get in? And
yeah.
It's a no for RJ.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder if he, and I hate to say this, because like staying into the league till you're 37 years old is like a really impressive feat, but I wonder if he stayed in the league too long. And just everyone kind of forgets how sick he was.
Yeah. Did you see that little beef between him and Carmelo recently about the 2004 Olympic team?
No.
Oh my gosh, he was hilarious. He was like, well, because Carmelo talked about being ticked that him and LeBron were backing up Richard Jefferson and Sean Marion on that team, and he goes, he's like, just look at the stats, look at the numbers. He goes, yeah, let's look at the numbers. When you and I played each other, like Richard Jefferson fired back. He's like, when you and I played each other, he's like, you had 8 points, I had 26. Okay, and we were guarding each other most of that game. He goes, so I'm gonna be honest, you weren't ready, Melo. You weren't ready. He goes, and truth be told, I wasn't ready.
Dude, he's done a great job of staying relevant. But look at this. So after that Olympic year, he averages 22 points, 4 assists, and 7.5 rebounds a game. I'll take that guy. That's a baller.
Yeah, no, man, he was another just great team guy. I think he was one of LeBron's all-time favorite teammates.
Too. He clearly just kind of fell off a cliff after that first season in Milwaukee. He had 19 a game, and then he started going down.
Did 11. He battle injuries? What's his game? Did he start battling injuries?
No, not until like 3 or 4 years after that.
Okay.
Or never even really. I think he just kind of. I mean, he probably just lost his step. But I think if he had retired earlier, he probably would. People go, yeah, he's so nice, but like the 9th guy on the roster for years now. It's just a mental block.
Yeah. JJ Redick.
I'll let you go. You're a Duke guy.
I'm a big Duke guy. I love JJ Redick. I think maybe a guy from a fame standpoint, 10 years too early. Can you imagine? I mean, you saw the following that Zion Williamson had when he was at Duke. I think 10 years later, like 2015 with social media, I think he would have been a college icon, even though he already was, right? I'm not saying he wasn't, but like, it would have just been on a bigger platform. Another guy that maybe was headed towards, I know he wasn't a huge, like a top 5 pick, but maybe even like headed down that Jimmer Fredette path for those first couple of years. So one thing I love about Jimmer is JJ is that he was able to revamp his career and really make a name for himself. I mean, he's made the playoffs until this year. We've talked about this previously, every year of his career.
It's very impressive.
And I think great locker room guy, great leader, obviously one of the greatest shooters, specifically catch and shoot, and, pull-up game is pretty solid. But for me, it's a no. I don't think, again, kind of like the Jamal Crawford aspect, I don't think there's just not enough for me. I think his moment might have been last season if he could have really taken kind of that Philly team up to another level. Right. I think he could have maybe slipped in, but I don't think it's a yes for me.
So I tend to agree with you, but I think it is a yes based on his college career. Like, he'll get in pretty easily.
Sorry, I'm basing it off NBA.
I gotta say he's probably he's one of the most famous basketball players, college basketball players I think I can ever.
Yeah. No, he's Zion Williamson, Christian Laettner.
Yeah, it was a long time ago now, but he was being talked about daily on ESPN.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And so I for that reason, I think he gets in. I think he
he put together a pretty sizable NBA career that's really no different than Richard Jefferson or Jamal Crawford. I mean, if you look at their numbers, they're all really similar. But I just think JJ is going to get in because of the college basketball.
College, yeah, no, that's true. That's true. No, college career-wise, I mean, how many times did he score 40? I mean, he did it a handful of times. I remember he did it against Texas.
He's so good.
Can we also talk about how sad it is that Maryland decided to leave the ACC?
Yeah.
That was like that was another great sports rivalry.
I know.
Like, obviously, everyone talks North Carolina Duke, but that Terrapins Blue Devils rivalry. I mean, especially when JJ went to Maryland. Remember, like F you JJ, like, that chant, the student section.
Ever since I remember watching like Juan Dixon and Chris Wilcox in that championship game, and ever since I've just loved them. I love their jerseys. They're dope.
Yeah, they were dope. Yeah, they had some guys, man. They had some guys. Steve Blake, Juan Dixon. Juan Dixon was nasty.
I know, he was so good. He should have made it.
He should have. He just couldn't figure it out. No, I think he gets in. I think you're right. If you're considering, and you said that in the beginning, if you're talking to his college career, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's just because it's the basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. Another guy that you and I really have enjoyed, Jason Terry.
Dude, I think the Jets in.
Do you? Now,
not as like a first time.
No,
but I don't,
he's not
but
first.
I also don't think he's going to slip in when we're 80. Like I think we'll see him like 4 or 5 years after this.
He's eligible. Another guy that had a huge long career, and again, I think anything might disservice him for being so long. Kind of like RJ, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough for me. I think because here's the thing, they don't win it in 2011. It's an absolute no. But he played such a role in that 2011 championship team. I think he might get in. I think he might.
So but that's like the key here is, I mean, if you're gonna say Vlade Divac can get in, like Jet Terry.
That's
was like,
true.
like,
That's true. When you talk about Lottie, I'm like, yeah, Jason Terry's all in.
Yeah. So I mean, look, if Jamal Crawford
does he get forgotten about?
Yeah, totally he does. But if Jamal Crawford, Richard Jefferson, JJ had been like the third or fourth guy in a championship team, like their careers the exact same. Just one of those teams won a championship game. Outside of Richard Jefferson, I know he won one, but that was kind of different. They're easily in.
Okay.
Like if the Nets win one of those championships in the early 2000s, Richard Jefferson.
It's hard. It's hard for me because like when I think about it, I'm like pulling myself out of being a Mavericks fan because I think you bring up valid points. I'm just like I think a lot of people don't even remember who Jason Terry is. Like, you know, obviously LeBron does, right? Because
yeah, put him down.
Yeah, but I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go with the yes. I'm gonna go with the yes.
I get where your head's at though, but I think if he hadn't won that championship game, it would be probably a no, frankly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, dude, he was a baller in Atlanta.
He was a baller, and I was excited when Mavs made the move for him.
Yeah.
And he again another guy that just went from a starting point guard / shooting guard role to embracing the position off the bench.
Yeah.
Being that sixth man and got the sixth man of the year. He
Yeah.
won one. So he pretty solid. All right. Another guy. You and I have been talking about him actually a decent amount here recently is Andre Iguodala. Iggy.
Yeah. So I think Iggy's pretty easily in.
Yeah, I agree.
Finals MVP. You know, I assume you're in the same mindset, so I'd almost rather kind of get into the fact of like what the heck was going on with him this season. Do you feel like he got off so easy?
So
what he did in Memphis?
I think, yeah, and I think I almost want to say it's because, yeah, he was kind of he acted like, and I'm not saying he is a prima donna, but he had a prima donna moment, right? A little diva moment. I like Iggy. I'm a huge fan of Iggy. I think he's another guy that's really smart, great locker room guy until that Memphis situation. I don't know what happened. And let's be honest. Look, I thought Miami was going to be good from the get-go, and so I get it. But at the same time, Memphis is no slouch. I mean, they're not a contender, but truth be told, I don't think Miami is.
Right.
And so I thought that was and you're right, like the media just kind of like let it be. And maybe it was because his name really isn't big enough and people are like looking at his career being on the back burner.
No, I think it was
and you and I talked about this maybe I feel a little better about it if he hadn't won a championship and his career's coming to an end. And so you're like, okay, he wants to be with the title contender. Again, who I don't think the Heat are. But he's already won 3 rings.
Yeah, I think it was weird. There's something like he must be boys with LeBron or something, and LeBron was like, hey, don't think about my boy, because that's pretty odd. Like he's a big enough name to where, and people were talking about, oh, where's he going to end up? Like he could potentially help put someone into a title race. Like who's going to go get him? And so I think you can't. People are saying that you can't say like it wasn't big enough. Maybe it just wasn't a big deal. Like he's on the end of his career. I think it was kind of a crap move, and we don't know all the facts. Like are not NBA.
Sure.
I don't know GM, but then like, oh well.
We don't have the insider info.
But no, I think it was pretty ridiculous with the information that I have. I think it was pretty crap.
On the surface, it looked rough, and that's and I get it. I'm going to name a couple guys that I understand he's not as big as. I mean, he's not as big as, but like let's say that's Kevin Durant. Media blast him to pieces.
Yeah, media
blast that's Carmelo Anthony
for going to the Warriors to win a championship.
Yeah, or that's Carmelo. In fact, they've actually criticized Kevin Durant for going to the Nets more than they criticize Iggy for that. Like,
totally.
It doesn't. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a valid. I appreciate you bringing that up. But yeah, for me, all that aside, he's a shoo-in. And depending on his draft class, not draft class, depending on his Hall of Fame class, I think he might even be a first ballot guy, depending on how weak it is.
Yeah, I think he is because of the Finals MVP, and people forget just how good he was. With the 76ers, he was awesome.
Dude, he was special. He was special.
Actually, he's only like a one-time All-Star. It's pretty odd because he was really an awesome player.
He always, until he got to Golden State, though, he always seemed like something was off. Something was missing. I remember when he was in Philly, and then he went to Denver. Say what?
Like a jump shot?
Maybe, it was just like he should have been a top option, but he just really wasn't comfortable being the top option. He was really made for that number 2, number 3 role, and then he found Golden State, and it just was a match made in heaven.
I think if he had to embrace a great shot, he would have been.
And I got to give him credit here because, we did just harp on him a little bit. I always appreciate guys that are willing to, even though it's hard for them, that have been starters their whole life, top 3 option bare minimum, and he had been even when he was with the Warriors. And then Steve Kerr comes in and moves him to the bench role, and he struggled with that, but he eventually embraced it, and that's.
That's what's so weird about the Memphis thing is that
I know. He's been like a great locker room guy his whole career.
He's been a great leader and a good team guy, and then it just out of nowhere he's like, nah, F these kids.
And maybe that's why he didn't get blasted, because like he hadn't made moves like that. I don't know. It was weird for sure. All right, moving on. So another guy, been in the West his whole career. Now he's with the Spurs. LaMarcus Aldridge.
This one's really tough because I think he's probably other than maybe Blake Griffin, he's probably the best player that we've actually talked about here. Mm-hmm. But his resume is really pretty bad. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's tough. This is a tough one, but I'm going to go ahead and just say that I don't know.
I think he gets in.
I think so.
I don't
know why.
I think he's in. He's one of those guys though that I wish he would have stayed in Portland.
Oh yeah, dude,
I think Portland fit him better. I understand the move to San Antonio, but for whatever reason, it seemed like he gained a bunch of weight when he went to San Antonio, and he just kind of became. And I get it, he got older, but like it seemed like he'd lost several steps. Like the moment he went to San Antonio, it was like that switch just went, and he slowed way down, and maybe it's their style of offense. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think too. I think you're right. He did turn 30 that same year, and then I just wonder if like that's right around. That's when that's 15, 16. That's when it's like very apparent that the game's changing. Like it was happening.
Sure. Kind of like the Blake Griffin.
The Warriors just one doing this. Like 20% or 20 of the teams in the league are going to go to this format now. So,
yep.
Let's be real about what he is. He's a jump shooting power forward, or like a mid-range jump shooting power forward. And I think it just, went downhill from there.
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, no, I think he gets in.
Yeah.
All right. Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap has a pretty solid resume. I mean, he's like a four-time All-Star, four-time All-Star. I think he's in. Not on like the first ballot thing, but like, I think he makes it in there. He was on those cool Atlanta teams. Yeah, I think he's in. What about you?
I think he's in. I think here's the thing. I agreed. I don't think he's first ballot. But you go back to those Atlanta teams were solid, man. They're salty. Like Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver,
Horford, and like Amari Carroll, and Kirk Heinrich.
Yeah. So I forgot about Heinrich.
They passed the Cavs, but I mean, there's one year they went 60. I guess they were 60.
They were the top team in the East for sure. What year was it? Like 15.
Not get enough credit, by the way.
Who?
Jeff Teague.
He done it. He didn't.
Think about the teams that he was on that just got popped up by the Cavs just being in the East. With like between those are really cool Pacers teams.
Yeah.
And these really cool Atlanta teams, and they just never were able to get past LeBron, and no one talks about him.
No, he gets forgotten about. And found a decent role in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But for nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
no offense to the Minnesota fans.
He's a player that just doesn't get.
That's an organization that I feel like doesn't get enough. Like, Phoenix gets a ton of flack, but Minnesota probably should get a little more too. They have very good moves.
They're a bad organization, and they're going to lose Karl Anthony Towns, and they're going to have
no one.
Russell.
Yeah, no one.
Just wait till they lose Cat and then D'Angelo Russell. It's like good stats, bad team guy, and he goes for like 28 a night or something. He's just jacking up threes, and
that's what he wants to do.
A very efficient player.
That's what he wants to do. You already referenced him, I think, earlier, but next guy, J.R. Smith.
No.
Nah. Unfortunately, I
But
think
he should be on talent. He should be.
One of the pound for pound more athletic guys the league's seen. I think his athleticism sometimes forgotten.
With a great if you tie it all together, you should be.
He should absolutely. I think unfortunately for him, he's going to be more remembered for that finals blooper than anything else.
Craziest thing. I was listening to the radio the other day. They were talking about that too.
And I feel bad for him because you know what? I really actually kind of like the guy. I think he's actually a pretty good dude. I think he's referenced adding that blooper. I think he's referenced for just being a big time pothead now.
Yeah.
But
wait for the LeBron doc in 20 years.
Say what?
Wait for the LeBron doc in 20 years.
Yeah.
And then J.R. Smith has to go in for an interview and relive that moment.
That's a good point.
Like, oh man,
Yeah, Scotty and Horace Grant were mad about how they were portrayed in the last dance. Can you imagine how JR is gonna feel?
Yeah, he's gonna just have this. I can't wait to see the look on his face when they like call out in an interview and 20 years later. He's just gonna be so pissed. He's like, why not?
Yeah, no, it's a no for me. This guy's a little more interesting. Still has several years to have a chance. But Jimmy Butler, I'm a big fan. You're not as much of a fan. He had a moment for me where I started getting frustrated with him. But what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he will. I say he will. But I'm with there. Yeah, I'm in agreement. So, oh, my dog is here. I'm in agreement so that I'm just not as big on him as you are.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I think from him it's an obvious yes. I think the more let's twist it. What does he have to do? Because I don't think he's there yet. What does he have to do to be a first ballot?
Conference finals.
Conference finals, and actually carry him.
Yeah, be the guy in the conference finals team that goes call it 6 games, like a good series.
Sure. Okay.
How many years left do you think he has of quality leading a team play?
He's 31. Is he 30 or 31?
He's 30.
Okay, so I think he's if he can get on the LeBron track.
Yeah, right.
It's 5 or 6, but realistically 2 or 3. I think
sure.
I think this season he had a good chance. If he could have shocked us and got to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Heat, I think this year was a good chance for that.
Yeah.
Again, I still don't think they're really a contender, but I think it's tough because I have a tough time seeing the season resuming. And I think the season might be a wash, unfortunately. And I kind of agree with Shaq. Speaking of, this isn't the topic, but whoever wins, I think he's somewhat right. He'll have an asterisk next to it. this
Depends on
year?
how they do it. I mean, if they all play if they play 7 games or 7 games in each series, I don't see why it would have an asterisk.
Sure, that's valid. That's valid.
It's just weird unless
I
someone
hope they play it. I hope they do.
kind of like if someone random wins, they're gonna put an asterisk, but if someone good wins, they're
like if it's the Lakers or Clippers or Bucks or something like that, yeah. It's that curse of Toronto, dude. Every time they win, the sport gets canceled, doesn't play the championship the next year. Marc Gasol, obviously his brother's a shoo-in.
Yeah.
Marc Gasol, though, man, he was playing with Zebo. That Memphis team, they were solid. And then Marc Gasol played his role last year. I mean, it wasn't anything to write home about. He was averaged 9 and 6, but
yeah, but he changed his game.
He did. No, absolutely. He was the ultimate team guy.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna say no.
Are you?
Yeah. The only reason I would say yes is just based on the Olympic stuff.
Okay.
Obviously, no one wants to play Spain. It's all rough. He was really a nobody early in his career. He got traded for his brother, the Lakers in 2009.
Sure.
But he had some great years in Memphis, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I just don't know if he's quite there for me.
Yeah, so it's tough for me because when you compare him with Lottie Divac, I don't think there's a huge difference there. But I think you're right. I think he never played. Unfortunately, if Memphis would have been Miami, and I'm talking or Dallas or Houston or LA, with a major market team,
yeah,
I think he gets in. I think that's a huge role Lottie got in because Lottie, he played for the Lakers, but Lottie was fortunate to be on a really, really good team in his late of his career, so he stayed relevant in people's minds.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna agree with you. And again, I think he gets in eventually. I just don't think it's in the near future.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, Mike Conley, another Memphis guy. No. See,
No.
It's interesting. I think he is.
I don't think. What is he gonna accomplish? He's washed up, man.
No, I agree. But man, he's had such a great career. Underrated, kind of a Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
I don't mean to keep saying but he just is forgotten about sometimes. I think for him, it depends on who he goes up against in those Hall of Fame classes, right? Because if it's a weaker class, he might squeeze in. Definitely not a first ballot by any means, but I don't know.
I think this was his year. If he was gonna
I agree.
And moving to Utah and just doing really, really well, I think that would have been if he just balled out this year, okay, get him on a really good team, a really good situation, and he's the leader now, and it's awesome. But he averages 4 assists a game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think
he didn't rise to the occasion.
And I think everyone thought he would have, and I think a lot of people, including myself, thought, man, Utah's going to be disgusting, and they were talking about taking him out of the starting lineup.
Yeah, they probably should.
So they ultimately decided Joe Ingles, taking him out, but it just. No, I agree with you. I think eventually he gets in, but for this conversation, I'm going to say no because it's nowhere in the near future. But I do think he was underrated when he was with Memphis. He got paid for it, so he can't complain too much. But now another guy that we didn't talk about, and we obviously know the answer, but I want to talk about whether he's first ballot or not. And this was his last year. The guy that has lasted for 3 decades, played in 3 decades, and that's Vince Carter. He's obviously a yes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. And if you do, you're kind of foolish in my eyes. But, Bill Simmons might. And I'm not going to say he's foolish because he knows the game. But is he first ballot?
Yeah.
I agree.
I think by staying in the league this long is the main reason, because I definitely think that he didn't fully live up to his potential. But at the same time, you're wow, he's been in the league for 20 years. And he's still, I don't think contributing that much this year, but even as 3-4 years ago, he was a contributing factor on teams. Do you remember that 3 he made on the Mavs?
Yeah, against was it San Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the coolest moments.
That was so awesome.
But yeah, I think so. Just, I mean, he's such a big name. You add his college stuff into. I think it's pretty valid.
So exciting. One thing I like about him that I think doesn't get talked about enough is he just played for the love of the game. I never felt like he ring chased. Like, obviously he competed and he wanted a ring, but like if he really ring chased, he would have just gone to the Warriors or a team like that would have taken him. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, having a guy like that, but he re-signed with the Hawks. Okay, like
yeah, just likes playing.
He just likes to hoop, and so I really like that about him. But yeah, I agree. I think you're right. I mean, he's one of the guys that's the opposite side. Like, because he played so long, people are like, man, you're the man. Like,
yeah.
And
I mean,
so
he's got 8 seasons of averaging about 25 points.
No, he was, dude, in his heyday. I mean, another guy that played on some of those Nets teams with Jason Kidd, and I mean, I can see it like it was yesterday where he caught that alley-oop and double pumped that reverse. I mean, that was insane. And so, no, he's in all day long.
Yeah,
he's in all day long. But well, that was good, man. That's all I got. You got to, unless you have a couple other guys you think we missed.
No, man. I think we've run our course here. The only other 2 guys that we talked about were Dwight Howard and Derrick Rose.
Okay, yeah.
Easy in first.
Yeah, I think Dwight Howard's definitely in, and I don't see how you can leave an MVP off.
Right. Derrick Rose is.
I think both of those guys, it comes down to first ballot or not.
Yeah, Dwight Howard's clearly first ballot. I don't know.
I think he is.
If he hadn't gotten injured, he would.
Yeah, I think he is. And again, he's another guy that, like, the game changed.
Yeah.
The game changed. And so it didn't benefit him. And that's even, frankly, everyone talks about the injuries, but that's frankly Derrick Rose too.
I think we should deep dive onto Derrick Rose and Dwight Howard.
Okay.
In the coming weeks, and
yeah,
how the game's changed
and how it actually affected them negatively.
Those guys were top 5 players in the league.
Yeah.
8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, agree. Well, let's do it. That'll be our next episode then.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. Well, good. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Tune in for the next one. We'll dive a little deeper on the game evolving and how that benefited certain guys and how that obviously affected in a negative way certain guys. And as we already prefaced, Derrick Rose and Dwight Howard, and earlier Blake Griffin as well. So, well, thanks again. And
Memorial Day. Thanks to all our vets out there, and appreciate you listening.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Ian. Sorry to steal your tagline there.